So another episode of Weaponized, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp's podcast dropped yesterday. And of course, they're talking about the 29 Palms UFO incident that has been creating so much controversy in the last week or so. So let's talk about it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. When Jeremy first shared his footage, I was really impressed by it. And then Mick West came out with his debunk saying it was all flares. And he had some really compelling evidence showing that. And I was really persuaded by that. I was still kind of on the fence, but leaning toward this being debunked. And then Jeremy Corbell came out with his rebuttal for that. And it was a pretty solid rebuttal. So I pivoted back to be firmly on the fence. But the controversy has continued to rage with many people in the UFO world thinking this is debunked and that this is, score one for Mick West, basically. And, the Black Vault, John Greenwald. So what does Jeremy say now? Well, now he has several Marines who are giving their own testimony, and they are responding to the question of whether or not it is flares. So let's hear from the first one.
I was like, hey guys, there's like some weird stuff in the sky. You guys should come check this out. And then when everyone came outside, and then like in one of the pictures I sent you, you can see just rows of like those cans that we were sleeping in, just rows of people coming out and like looking up into the sky.
I've heard different timelines of like how long it was there in the sky. Can you tell me for how long you saw it in the sky?
I was outside for at least 10, 15 minutes. I know that I wasn't outside like the whole time.
Did you see when they shot flares up and they had those lumen flares?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's one of the pictures I sent you. There's flares in the sky with the lights behind it.
One of the kids, he goes, you could see a shape, he said, about it not just being lights, but seeing like the shape of a body of a craft. Did you see that?
Yeah. They were stagnant. They weren't moving. They were very in place. That's what was so weird to us, is that it was just kind of just like there.
Did they drop like flares? Did they descend like flares, or did it stay and hover in place?
No, not at all. That's not what these lights were doing. The lights were pretty stagnant in the sky and not moving anywhere.
There you go. That guy was satisfied that it wasn't flares. But what about another one? Let's listen to another one.
A lot of people are saying that these are flares.
No, they weren't. Definitely 100% not flares. I think it was a craft. It was weird.
So this was unlike anything you've seen before or since?
Oh, yeah. First time seeing something like that. Yeah, it definitely looked like a craft.
Again, not flares, according to that guy. Well, what about a third witness? What would he say? Let's listen.
Well, when a flare gets shot up, it leaves a trail, and it's also being parachuted, so it doesn't sit in the same spot for a very long period of time, and the light dims down. That light was there for a very long time.
How long?
I can't remember precisely how long it was.
Like approximate, was it 5 minutes? Was it an hour?
I remember we were all out there probably for about a good 30 minutes looking at it, which, like I said, which makes no sense to me if it would be a flare, because a flare is continuously falling. You'll see that smoke. There's a parachute attached to them, so they slow down while they fall. And you couldn't see a parachute on them, even if they were zoomed in. They weren't moving. It wasn't even burning like a burning kind of light, because, a flare's combustion.
I have a video where afterwards these lume flares go up, and they look very different, like they're falling. Yeah,
it's drastically different from what we saw.
You're adamant that these were not flares.
Yes, sir.
Okay, intriguing, right? So it looks like, according to the witnesses, at hand, they were confident that these were not flares. These guys have experience with flares, and they were shooting up their own flares during the event. So they know what flares look like. They say this was not one of those. The lights were stagnant. They weren't moving. Now, I have some questions about that because in Mick West's debunk, he has shown the lights descending. So I would like some answer to that, or some address to that question, because I think it's a valid question. However, at this moment, I am leaning in the direction of this not being flares, and this being a genuine event, a genuine sighting of an anomalous object. And it gets even more interesting. Let's listen to what that third witness had to say in addition to it not being flares.
The night was pretty crazy.
Why?
There was convoys of vehicles, helicopters. It's nothing you'd really see happen there.
So that was unusual. The response was unusual?
Oh, yeah. There was like a convoy that night of vehicles heading that way. It had to be at least like 50 to 70 trucks. It was a huge convoy. And then all night long, there's helicopters just flying around everywhere. It was very unusual.
Even though that was part of you're there for training missions and there's a known training mission going on there at that time, this is still unusual?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely very unusual.
The response was unusual.
Yeah.
What's your interpretation of that response?
I think they're probably going to hunt it down or something, see if they could find it.
Whoa, isn't that intriguing? So there was a massive military response to this event, to this object. So I would love to know if they really did hunt down this UFO or what precisely they were doing, but clearly this caused a stir. When this happens in the civilian world, the men in black move in or whatever and descend on the location and they silence everybody. And if there's a craft to be retrieved, they retrieve the craft very, very quickly. And in this case, on a military base, I would be really interested to see what exactly the powers that be did. In Roswell, at the crash, when the powers that be moved in, they did their typical thing. They silenced everybody in the town, and they forced the military guys to pretend that this had been a weather balloon when it was not. So were they going around telling people to change their story? I'd be intrigued to learn that. However, we have not seen any sign of that. And since the object itself had moved off, what exactly were they doing with this convoy that this witness says he saw? He did say he saw a bunch of helicopters. So were they pursuing the craft? Because we have seen this time and time again where there's a cattle mutilation or an abduction or whatever, and then the black helicopters show up. And abductees frequently see these who are recurring contactees of the phenomenon. Often they will be visited by black helicopters, and this has happened to many high-level contactees like Terry Lovelace. The government is often aware of UFO activity and visitations when they, encounter people, and they will dispatch units to go either chase the UFO off or do whatever the heck the black helicopters do. What exactly are they doing? Who exactly do they represent? And what is their agenda? Well, I would love to know. But it does sound like whatever apparatus gets kicked into gear at one of these sightings did indeed get kicked into gear. So I would really love more witnesses to come forward testifying not specifically about the object, but about the military response. What did they do? What was that convoy doing? There was no craft to retrieve, I don't think. So what was the ground response doing? I can imagine the air response trying to possibly pursue this object. But what did the ground response do? I want answers. Will I get any? But anyway, so at this moment, I am persuaded that this was a genuine sighting and not flares, and I am now embarrassed that I ever fell for Mick West's debunking. I try to give the skeptics, a little, room to debunk these things, and some of them need to be debunked. And I think that skeptics do provide a valuable service to the community and keeping us honest and making sure that we are not believing in phantoms. So I do think that it is worth listening to these guys from time to time. However, these guys are just basically spreading disinformation and not doing the service that I would hope that they would perform. But that's just me. Those are my thoughts. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate that. Smash the subscribe button and the bell, of course, to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And if you could share this video when it drops on social media, that would be super helpful. There's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel. And until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.